There's something almost poetic about the way Prince Harry keeps rattling the palace without even trying. Imagine the scene, the courtiers and royal rota, jet-setting off with King Charles and Queen Camilla to Italy, enjoying their usual spoon-fed headlines, photo ops and flattery, only to get blindsided. Harry shows up in London, unannounced, calm, focused, and entirely unbothered by their circus. And the media? Oh, they lost their minds. Headlines started spinning, courtiers were reportedly fuming, and you could practically hear the royal commentators clutching their pearls in real time. It's incredible, isn't it? The mere presence of Prince Harry in his homeland causes such hysteria. But this wasn't a royal tour. It wasn't a press stunt. Harry didn't come with a Netflix crew or red carpet in tow. He came for one reason, to fight yet again for the right to protect his family. His legal battle over security in the UK continues because for Harry this isn't about status or ego, it's about survival. But the British press, true to form, couldn't help themselves. The Telegraph, in what can only be described as a condescending, self-serving fantasy piece, ran a column titled "It Might Soon Be Time to Welcome Harry Back into the Royal Family," as if Prince Harry is a wayward child in need of forgiveness. As if this institution, which abandoned him, his wife and his children, is somehow the victim here. According to the columnist Alan Cochrane, Harry has behaved badly, very badly even. Oh really, for what exactly? For stepping away from a toxic system, for refusing to watch history repeat itself, for loving his wife openly and fiercely, for protecting her and their children from the exact fate that took his mother. That's what they call bad behaviour now. The hypocrisy is exhausting. Let's get something straight. Prince Harry didn't exile himself. He was pushed by a palace that refused to defend his wife, pushed by a tabloid media that made it their mission to dehumanize Meghan Markle at every turn, and pushed by a royal family that still believes silence is more sacred than truth. And yet here comes this article pretending that the door has always been open, that Harry simply wandered too far from the fold, and now, if he's learned his lesson, perhaps they'll let him back in. But here's what the press never wants to admit. Harry isn't the one who needs to grovel. He's not the one who needs to prove anything. He has been consistent from the beginning. Protect my family, tell the truth, live with integrity. He walked away from the royal machine, but he never turned his back on service, on duty, or on the values he was raised with. In fact, he's embodied them more than most of the people still wearing crowns. When he spoke to the court this week, his words weren't those of a spoiled prince. They were the words of a father, a husband, a man who has known trauma, who understands risk, and who refuses to gamble with the lives of the people he loves. He said, "The UK is my home. The UK is central to the heritage of my children, and a place I want them to feel at home as much as where they live at the moment in the US. That cannot happen if it's not possible to keep them safe when they are on UK soil." And how did the royalists respond? With empathy, understanding? Of course not. They called it a stunt. They called it phony. Some even had the nerve to suggest that Harry was doing all this because he's bored of his aimless life in Los Angeles. First of all, Harry doesn't even live in LA. And second, what exactly is aimless about his life? Let's talk about what aimless apparently looks like to these people. Harry and Meghan have produced award-winning content, spearheaded mental health initiatives, launched a thriving non-profit, and remained global advocates for veterans, families, and equity. Harry's Invictus Games continue to grow stronger each year, so much so that Birmingham will host the Games in 2027. You think an aimless man pulls off something like that? What's really happening is simple. The press and palace cannot stand the fact that Harry and Meghan are thriving outside the institution, that they're free, powerful, and respected globally without the royal machine propping them up. Because that machine is built on control, and Harry broke free. And let's not ignore the deeply patriarchal, borderline disturbing undertones in these articles. The way they act like it's some mystery that a man would love and protect his wife. The way they make Harry's devotion to Meghan sound like a flaw instead of a virtue. As if the real problem is that Harry cares too much, as if they can't wrap their heads around a Windsor man not resenting or abandoning his wife. That's the real scandal for them. Love, loyalty, compassion. The fact that Prince Harry chose love over protocol, empathy over silence, and humanity over hierarchy. That's what drives them mad. And now these same royalists want to pretend they're offering an olive branch, that perhaps it's time to welcome him back. No, You don't get to throw someone to the wolves and then expect applause when you decide it's time to forgive them for surviving. That's not reconciliation. That's manipulation. If Harry returns to the fold, and let's be honest, there's zero sign that he's even considering it, it should only be on his terms, not theirs. And the terms should include accountability, an apology, an acknowledgement of the pain and trauma inflicted, not this ridiculous posturing about how Harry needs to prove he wants to be part of the family. The only thing Harry ever needed to prove, he already has, that he's willing to do whatever it takes to protect his wife, his children, and his peace of mind. He doesn't owe them anything. The royalists say, let the victors be magnanimous, but what they mean is, let us decide when we're done punishing you. And we say no. No more rewriting the story to suit the monarchy's fragile ego. No more gaslighting the public into thinking Harry and Meghan are the problem. The problem has always been the system, and they simply refuse to be consumed by it. So when you hear those headlines, when you see those smirking anchors talking about Harry's return, remember this. Harry never left who he truly is. He left an institution that tried to crush him for daring to evolve. And for that we stand with him. Proudly, thank you for being here, Royal Sussex Squad. Thank you for showing up, for listening, for refusing to let the truth be buried under layers of palace PR. If this is your first time listening, make sure to hit that subscribe button and join our community where we uplift truth and hold power to account. Drop a comment and let us know what you think. And if you want to support the channel and help us keep going strong, hit that super thanks button. Every contribution helps us keep the lights on, keep the mic hot, and keep calling out the nonsense with clarity and courage. It might soon be time to welcome Harry back into the royal family. By the looks of it, Prince Harry surprised Buckingham Palace's courtiers when he showed up in London on Tuesday. Harry absolutely surprised the royal rota too, most of whom were travelling with King Charles and Camilla this week in Italy. The Telegraph and the Times both ran pieces in which courtiers were fuming about Harry's thunder-stealing. The Times' royal sources even made it sound like this was the straw that broke the camel's back for Harry and Charles's relationship. Which is funny because the courtiers have also briefed for years that Charles refuses to speak to Harry because of Harry's security fight and lawsuits. A situation which Charles could change but refuses to do so. So basically, father and son are estranged, and Charles is mad that the son he never speaks to has stolen his thunder yet again. Well, you know what that means. It's time for another weird royalist column about how Harry needs to come back to the Windsor fold. From Alan Cochrane's Telegraph piece, it might soon be time to welcome Harry back into the royal family. By any measure, he has behaved badly, very badly even. All on his own, he has made himself an outcast. Nobody else is really to blame for the situation in which he finds himself, separated from a loving father who would still welcome him back into the fold, even if his elder brother is highly unlikely to feel the same way. However, as the chasm between Prince Harry and the family of King Charles yawns ever wider, could there be even the slightest chance of cutting him some slack? And who knows? We might see the beginning of the end of Harry's war. It will be difficult. Such intense family reconciliations always are, but surely there is scope for the barrage of ill-feeling and wounded pride to peter out. That way, we might find a route towards a ceasefire. Can the guns not be silenced? Harry is in London at present, while his father is on a state visit to Italy, and although both were in London before the king left for Rome, they didn't see each other, a huge sadness in itself. The prince, however, has time for only one thing while on a flying visit to Britain this week, his seemingly never-ending attempt to secure royal-level protection for himself and his family. But doesn't anyone see some of the words he used in this week's appeal court hearing as a cri de coeur? He is suing the Home Secretary over a ruling by RAVEC, the Royal and VIP Executive Committee, to withdraw his right to police protection. But read again what he said. "The UK is my home. The UK is central to the heritage of my children and a place I want them to feel at home as much as where they live at the moment in the US. That cannot happen if it's not possible to keep them safe when they are on UK soil. The many cynics among Harry watchers will claim this is all an act, a phony attempt to get his own way and score a point against all those, especially in his estranged family, who constantly oppose him and his wife Meghan. Any number are prepared to blame Meghan for much of the family's ills. However, nobody should be in any doubt about Harry's devotion to her. In another extract from his evidence to the court, he said, "I cannot put my wife in danger." And given my experiences in life, I am reluctant to unnecessarily put myself in harm's way too. If he loses this case before the appeal court, and it will be some time before we hear the judgment, it's expected that he will have to foot a substantial bill, which might suggest that the act of throwing himself on the mercy of the court in this way indicates that he's now bored with what looks to many like the aimless life he leads in Los Angeles. In the battle for public opinion, once upon a time, Harry reigned supreme and was the rascal royal that everyone loved. But that was then. The present Harry has lost out. He still has his supporters, especially among young people, but there is no doubt that the King's Party, if such a description can be attached to the royal family, has increased in popularity as Harry's has disappeared. Whatever the appeal court's verdict in this case, angry words and bad behaviour will not be easily forgotten, but as Churchill insisted, let the victors be magnanimous. It is past time for a rapprochement in the House of Windsor. For that to happen, Harry must show he wants to be part of it. Dude can't even spell Meghan correctly, and I don't understand why this guy is evoking Harry's devotion to his wife, as if explaining it to a public who cannot understand how a man could love his wife and want his wife to be alive. Like, this is where we are with the House of Windsor. You mean a Windsor man does not despise his wife? We will have to explain this to the public, gently. This is also extremely dumb, which might suggest that the act of throwing himself on the mercy of the court in this way indicates that he's now bored with what looks to many like the aimless life he leads in Los Angeles. Harry doesn't live in LA, nor is his life aimless. That's definitely the new royalist talking point this year, though. Harry doesn't have a job, he's aimless. Anyway, these people are working themselves into a lather, trying to royal-splain something which should be taken at face value. Harry would like to visit the UK sometimes, and he would like his children to know his homeland, but he's justifiably afraid for their safety if he ever brought them back for a visit. This issue has gotten even more important now that the Invictus Games will be staged in Birmingham in 2027, which should be a factor in this security issue, but hasn't been mentioned from what I've seen. This is Royal Sussex Squad, where we see through the noise, speak up for what's right, and always keep our eyes on the real story. Until next time, stay bold, stay loud, and stay loyal to truth. We'll see you soon.